And all right, and we're live. Hello, everyone. This is Americap, the American Capitalist. On this very special episode of Americast, we have Mike Twopence, Teen Wolf, Rocket Raccoon, Ancap Macaulay Culkin, and a libertarian Jay Baruchel. But in all seriousness, guys, we've been very blessed today with my 2 cents, Esoteric Entity, God damn it, Ichabod Orange, Atomic Ancap, and my fellow libertarian in arms. And I already said my 2 cents. I got all... Oh, my fellow libertarian in arms, Chase. And we will be discussing libertarianism, anarcho-capitalism, and the ideological pathways that connect them. So why don't you all tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll get into the icebreakers.
So who's going to start? I guess I spoke first, so I'll start. My name's Chase Martin. I'm not really a YouTuber. I'm just a libertarian. I run a libertarian organization on my college campus, and I'm not really an ANCAP. I'm pretty bread and butter libertarian. So I figured I could come on to this stream and gather some ideas and trade some knowledge. And yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Who wants to go next?
Well, okay, sure. Well, I'm Esoteric Entity. You might see me around because I'm, like, hands down the most hated by anti-libertarians. That's because I have a pretty strong grasp of the theory from every side of the argument. But I consider myself an ANCAP, though I interchangeably use terms like individualist or voluntarist anarchist to go with that. And I specifically believe in abolishing the state through the use of counter-economics, which is what sets me apart, because many other ANCAPs don't talk about that angle, which leads a lot of people to think that they don't actually have a way to achieve their society. Which stuff like that's the reason why the anti-libertarians hate me so much. But anyway, that's about it. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. My name is Atomic Ancap. I'm 13, and I'm basically on board with Esoteric Entity, but yeah, basically, that's... Unlike Esoteric, I don't have any Bitcoin, so... That's me.
All right. This is my 2 cents. I'm also an ANCAP. I have a YouTube channel. I cover economics, culture, and smart living. I will agree with Atomic ANCAP there. I'm mostly in line with Esoteric on just about everything. He and I might disagree on a few minor points, but that's about it.
That's it. I'm taking it like I'm the only one who hasn't gone.
Yeah, other than me, but I mean, they know me, chances are,
Yeah,
but they probably don't. Yeah.
All right. I'm Ichabod Orange. I run a entertainment channel. I'm a nihilist. There's not much else to say besides that.
A nihilistic raccoon.
Oh yeah, well, big surprise, right?
So I'm the Americap. For those of you who don't know me, chances are if you're watching this stream, you don't know me because I'm the possibly one of the smallest channels ever. I myself am a brand new ANCAP, very very new to the ideology. I'm educated overall on stuff, just not regarding ANCAP. I'm learning. I run a YouTube channel. I mean, obviously, you're on it, but other than that, there's not really much to say about me. So,
No, it's not a real ideology.
If I could just quickly say, every YouTube channel starts as a small YouTube channel, so don't beat up on yourself too much.
When I was still a conservative, I got excited over 20 subscribers, so yeah, you're not the one who has issues.
I've not stopped being excited at the fact I'm remained above 300. Oh shit, I did forget. I'm also not Rocket Raccoon, by the way. If people keep making that fucking joke.
a different cartoon raccoon.
Okay, yeah, because apparently there's only the two of us.
All right, so now that that's over, we're going to go into our icebreaker segment. First, let me explain what it is. So I came up with this segment when I realized that it's a lot easier to have disagreements and discussion when you humanize everyone involved. Finding common ground can't talk today. Finding common ground first tends to lead to friendlier debates and conversations. So we'll be doing 4 icebreakers today to see if we can get to know each other a little better and humanize ourselves. The icebreakers are fun, non-political questions that one might find asked at a stoner's slumber party. So, first icebreaker of the day. What is your favorite meme and why?
Oh. Jeez. I
boy.
I gotta think about that.
First question, and you're gonna get me in trouble.
I'm a simple guy, right? So I'd say my favorite meme is probably like one of the oldest, and it's of that one British guy who gets like, he's like starting his intro to a video and he gets punched in the face and he's like, I can't believe you've done this. And I think it's just great because like the sheer, like, it's just one of those moments where like you hate someone so much but you still love them, so you're not going to react physically, and it's like, it's great. I don't know, it's very mixed. I'm very vanilla. No edgy memes for me.
I was trying to go next, but I guess I could do that. Hold on.
Go next, bro.
Okay. My sense of humor is very reaction based. So my favorite memes, it's actually a tie. It's Moon Man and Try Hard. Like when people send those song requests to Twitch streamers and they start freaking out over it because they can get them banned. That's the funniest shit ever. Like you guys should look up Try Hard compilations. They're so funny. Like I don't know why they're not as popular as they should be.
Twitch chats are the worst. They're so like,
it's the length that people will go to that also makes it funny. Like there's this one particular streamer who a lot of people like to fuck with named Bathrobe Dwayne. And there's this guy, he made 400 accounts. No joke. He made Billy Stacks, and then he got banned, so he made Billy Stacks 1 through 400, and he went up with the number every time one of his accounts would get banned. And he did that just to send him song requests to fuck with him.
Holy shit, that's dedication, man. Wait, did that guy play in a bathrobe?
No, he doesn't.
Damn, that's sad. I really would have watched it if that was the case. But no, I'm kidding. That's great.
So who's next?
Yeah.
Well, I may as well go next just to fill the silence.
Fuck it.
But my favorite meme is hands down got to be the evil Morty theme meme. It's oh yeah.
I didn't even know that was a meme.
Oh yeah, like somebody will epically fail at something, and then you'll just hear doom doom doom.
I have a nasty tendency to stay the hell out of fandoms, so there are a lot of like fandom in jokes that I will not know.
The Rick and Morty thing is weird because it's one of those things where you want to hate the mainstream so hard and not watch it, but it's still such a great show. Like you really can't deny it. It's kind of like The Office, but
with stuff like that, I just watch the show, but I never talk about it.
Yeah, you can't talk about it because then you just feel like a pleb.
No, because then I get associated with the freaking fan base.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
I hate to be that dick, Americat, but how would you define a meme? Would you say that
just any like I would say just anything like just really just something kind of just funny culturally. Like I don't really have exact definitions.
No, that's enough. Like I have to give you a little bit of backstory about this because I have to. So I was watching I don't know if you know what the Kumite is. Tonka and Failure.
Blood sports.
Yeah, IBS. But I was watching that one day, and Failure was giving everybody a wrench. And I was like, oh, look, the glorious wrench no state. And that just snowballed into a meme.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Beautiful.
He gave everybody in his chat a wrench.
Yes.
Oh,
Why?
That's the wrench. Is that the wrench meme?
The wrench no state meme?
Oh my god.
Yeah, that came from me.
Whoa.
I'm still pissed about that because I don't get credited for it.
Wow. I am in the presence of a meme.
So, did everyone just basically get banned from chat then? Because
basically nobody could get banned, but then there was all the like people giving out real names and addresses and stuff, and then they took all the wrenches away, and it was a clusterfuck.
Wow. All right, 2 cents. You want to go next?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
My favorite memes are those car memes where the guy's going on an interstate and he makes like a last-second decision to turn.
Yes.
Oh yes,
dude,
I love
endless.
those memes.
Endless.
Oh god.
If I could, I would make 1,000 memes, just all different memes of those.
Endless.
You make a stale meme, man.
Well, it's not stale to me; it's funny to me.
Well, yeah, it's funny to you. It's just
Because I get those. I can automatically detect a bad driver genes from my dad. So.
What about the ones with the dude who's with a girl and then he's like looking at the other girl who's passing by?
I want that meme to die so bad.
Oh god.
There's only certain parts of that meme that are actually funny.
Make one of those car memes of me and the road says tasteful humor, and then I'm like swerving to the off ramp, and the off ramp says dead baby jokes.
Oh my god!
I still have that screenshot of when we were still in the Cool Capitalist Kids chat. You saying boiling babies is better or something. Still have that. I've never deleted that.
That is out of context. I was obviously making a dead baby joke.
I know, but I like tweeted it. I was like, meanwhile in Cool Capitalist Kids.
Oh yeah.
All right, hey, I had to step away from my keyboard for a second, so I missed a large chunk of conversation, but I'm back.
We're talking about memes, bro.
Lovely.
Why? Because we're mature.
Did you, what was it? Did you hear the question?
I did not.
All right, it's, what's your favorite meme and why?
Okay, tough question. My mind tends to go to many of the Hillary Clinton memes that came out in 2016. In particular, I can think there's, or better yet, there's one where Bill Clinton's face is on it, and it says, "After years of cheating, Bill realizes how painful it is when someone else fucks your spouse."
Oh God! Nice. Oh my god, I'm so sorry for my Wi-Fi. Everyone's roboting so bad.
Well, I'm subscribing to you now, but I didn't know where the hell your channel was.
Hi.
Oh god, my Wi-Fi, like there's only a couple of there. Ironically, like the situation everyone describes as the nightmare with net neutrality, it's already my friggin' situation. Like if net neutrality, like honestly, removing that shit is what would help my area because I live in a rural neighborhood. Like more ISPs in the marketplace would help me so goddamn much. But No, everybody has to autistically screech.
Yeah,
Your
in
ISP's
the area, because of zoning laws and stuff caused by net neutrality, I'm stuck with the choice between Charter and Frontier.
Oh damn!
Oh no.
I have basically like there's like My Town Wireless, like it's literally the name of my town, but it has wireless at the end. Like that's how fucking small it is. And then there's like all the satellite internets. But the problem with the satellite internet is that like there was a delay when you gamed with it, and there was like a monthly like data cap.
And yeah, that's the thing with net neutrality supporters is a lot of them, they just talk complete shit. They say that these small markets, these curbed markets in the ISP industry, that's because of ISPs paying other ISPs to keep them out of the market. But that's bullshit. You don't take payments from other people unless you're going out of business. And that's the only time you take a payment from them is if they're buying your business. And that only exists because of intellectual property law, which is not a product of the free market. So really, the real problem, the reason why in every county, depending on counties, there's only a few ISPs is because of zoning laws. The government literally makes it so there can't be more than a certain number of ISPs per area. Do not tell me that the internet service situation we have right now is a result of the market, because that's bullshit. And they always do that too. The government does something, and then the government says that the market's the problem, and then people start blaming the market.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, government regulations cause a problem. They say it's the free market, so we need more regulations. And of course, those regulations cause more problems, which
I call that
spirals it.
I call that the circle of corporatism.
Oh yeah.
Americap, I just made your stream more popular. I tweeted it out.
Oh, thank you so much.
So
I did too, but my crowd is not the crowd you want.
Is it cool if I move straight into a question from a vanilla libertarian to just a question as to, like, I'm really into the business world, and one thing that's always kind of confused me is like I'm really into the voluntary idea, but the thing that really gets me is consumer rights, and how you address not necessarily environmental regulations and things like that, but how you address making sure that your toaster doesn't give you cancer over the span of 20 years without without necessarily like a national state.
Not a regulatory body.
Exactly, without a regulatory body. And that's one thing that's always kind of busted my brain. I'm like, well, because most problems can be solved by without regulation, without government. But that's one thing that I really have a hard time understanding, because you look at countries that have huge states that have crappy consumer rights and their products are trash, like Russia during the Cold War and things like that. Like,
look at, that's the thing I'll tell you, is look at the countries with the least free markets. They're the ones with the worst working conditions. And the truth is, with labor laws and stuff like that, is the left has done and the people, the pro-state people, they've done a great job revising history to make it look like FDR changed all of that. Like, he got child labor out of the market. He got all these dangerous working conditions out. But in reality, those were out of the working place decades before FDR even took office. What causes these things to be removed from the marketplace are two factors. One, innovation. Innovation, making things cheaper and easier to use. That takes away the steps required to operate machinery and operate the lines of production, and that makes them safer. And two, competition. Nobody wants to work for an employer that's where they'll be killed they could be killed operating their production. So in a competitive market, employers necessarily do as much as they can to make their working conditions more desirable for laborers, because if they don't, then somebody else will, because that's the thing that they've been doing for the longest time.
Yeah,
and that's the reason why prior to the 20th century, during like the early industrial revolution, working conditions were so crappy. One, the market didn't have the chance to innovate past that at this point, and that's the main reason.
yeah.
About the child labor thing, I went a little bit more into detail in my FDR video. Just shameless self plug there.
Okay. And if I could chime in about the issue of regulations to protect consumer products, if I'm not mistaken, part of your question had to do with like a product being potentially hazardous to the health or
Yes,
dangerous in some other way. Was that kind of part of your question?
That was what I was asking.
Okay.
It was like,
well, you could still have in a free market, you could still have a regulatory agency, as it were. For example, if there's businesses could pay a private regulatory agency to, a third party to come in and inspect their products and certify their product as being safe based on, standards that they set. And only regulatory agencies that could provide that service for the high quality. In other words, they had a reputation for actually providing no nonsense certifications that guaranteed as best as they could guarantee that the products were safe, but they could also do it, faster and cheaper than other regulatory agencies, and they would have to have a reputation for actually doing the job well. So,
they're directly incentivized to do that, by the way, because it builds a sort of consumer trust, so the person buying the product knows that they're probably not going to die from using it. Because, nobody wants to buy something that could kill them, which is the reason why companies are incentivized to do that. But another thing I was going to say is, even as of right now, there's like 2,000 private not investigation firms, but basically private EPAs in the market, which are mostly doing the consumer reviews and like inspections as it is. The EPA, I'm thinking of, no, I know not the EPA, that's environmental protection, consumer protection. I'm trying to remember the name of the agency, but it's the one that from the government.
Business Bureau?
Better Business Bureau?
No.
FDA?
Okay, let me check.
Yeah, FDA. That's the one. That's the one I'm thinking of. But the FDA doesn't actually, review these products. Their purpose is to basically allow the government to decide how to hand out patents, and patents are created by the government to begin with. If you look at what the FDA does, that's mostly it. For example, I gave this example out in my video entitled "The Dumbest Anti-Libertarian Ever." The FDA has been known to basically give production rights to specific companies and allow them to essentially establish monopolies in the market by not allowing other competitors to enter the market. And the example I gave was on silicone injections. The FDA basically said only one corporation is allowed to manufacture silicone injections, and they did this after another company had asked for the rights to manufacture these. So basically, the FDA operates as, if you pay the government enough, they operate under the basis that if you pay them, if you do enough favors for the government, then you'll have the rights to essentially own the market on these products.
Yeah, that's very, very evident in the medical industry, like in the pharmaceutical industry.
I mean, to be fair, just as a note on the point of people won't buy things that will actively hurt them. I'm a heavy smoker, so not 100%
Well,
true.
I mean, what we mean is like paint with asbestos, like trash like that. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
no,
Like
I
stuff,
understand.
stuff.
I'm talking about like
I know, I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, it was funny though.
Yeah. Pills that are supposed to cure your headache and they end up destroying your kidney. That's the sort of stuff I'm talking about.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I
because we do need like it's hard to say, but I'm not saying we need a state regulation, but I think that in order for a free market to flourish and really be the best free market that it can be, the consumer does have to be able to have confidence in their products that they're buying. So you look at like, I can't remember what it's called, but you guys remember that like in the freaking 1800s where guys would go around on carts selling fake medicine that wouldn't
Snake
really do
oil
anything?
salesman.
Yes, that's the kind of thing that that's always tripped me out about free markets is like you do need it. It doesn't have to be a state party, but figuring out what you can do to alleviate that issue is.
I agree, but yeah, the thing is, if you actually look at the snake oil salesmen, they were a very minor influence in the market. I mean, there's a reason why they were guys carrying around carts and not people running stores, because virtually nobody bought anything from them because they didn't have any sort of consumer confidence. They didn't have any trust in the purchase.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and just to add on to that, like snake oil salesmen still exist today. I mean, they're selling a different product, but I mean, even with heavy government regulation in the market, walk into any swap meet and you're going to find 15 people trying to sell you balance bracelets or moon rocks that'll make your dick grow bigger or something stupid like that. The snake oil salesman may have changed faces, but he still exists, and the government did nothing. Despite all the regulations, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't lie about a product.
Yeah, that's very true, I guess.
You can't fix human stupidity.
Oh yeah, it's just swindling is just a part of human nature. It'll happen while the government's here and long after it's gone.
It'll happen as long as people think that there's more gain for them to swindle others than there is consequence, which is part of the reason why I think a free market would actually be better, because when you've got people so fiercely concerned with like whether or not their products are actually going to work for them and doing as much research into their purchases as possible, there just really isn't an environment where swindlers can flourish.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. Remember when we were doing the icebreaker segment and then we delved deep into
So as we were going through that part, I was like, this is way too interesting to like interrupt. So I went ahead and I threw out all the other three icebreakers. And so my next statement is not going to make much sense. And that concludes our icebreaker segment. And now for a new segment I call the Freedom Song Award. Yes. I decided that every time we do this, I'll pick one song that I feel truly embodies freedom. And this episode's freedom song was actually introduced to me by none other than Esoteric Entity, and it is Individualism by Backwards. I'd play the song for you, but I have neither the technological ability nor the copyright to do so. So,
oh, come on. You can't use the copyright.
So everybody go in your search bar and find it elsewhere.
Oh,
yeah, screw the stream. Just watch it. It's more important.
If it weren't for copyright and your apprehension of using so, I would just open Voice Meter and play it.
Honestly.
Because I do have the technological capacity to do so.
I tried to do an OBS virtual cam because they have like a plugin for that, but I couldn't get it to work with Hangouts. I don't know why.
So maybe what we could do is
well, if you're using OBS to run it, you stream directly from OBS using your stream key in your settings. If you want to like be in Hangouts to do it, use XSplit, because that's what I use. My show is mildly acceptable, but you combine XSplit with Voice Meter, and you can do a show like hell. You watched my show. You were in my show, motherfucker.
Oh yeah, I saw your show. Like, I actually think I might start doing XSplit soon, depending on the cost. I tried to get OBS to work because it's free, but the idea was with the virtual cam, I could basically take whatever's in my OBS screen, and I could use that basically as a webcam. And I thought that might work, but it did not work. So today's topic, we're going to get into it. I'd like to start it off with a question, and we'll see where it goes. So how do you all feel about anarcho-capitalism and how it relates to libertarianism? By that I mean just libertarians in general, just the entire kind of community. And why do so many libertarians remain minarchists even when they often openly acknowledge the illegitimacy of the state?
Ooh, can I start since I'm a minarchist?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. So for me, I know this is, it's very typical to say, but I think that if you want something, you like our goal really is to get the United States of America to become a more liberty-based state and system, or no state at all, whatever you believe. But I think that for most Americans, all they want really, is to go to work, get paid, eat and sleep, and be safe. That's really what it comes down to. When I talk to people and I try to recruit people, they just say, you know what, I don't care about politics. I just want to go to class. I just want to go to work. That's it. I don't really care what happens. So I think throwing an idea, even if it's the right idea, throwing an idea that says to completely ditch the state, which most people believe makes them safe, whether that be true or not, I don't think it is, but it's kind of like making you less relatable to the people that you really want to get on board with your idea. So for me, libertarianism as an idea that still involves the state and still involves government, I think for now we should be pushing for people to care a lot more about their rights and about small government and about less government regulation and intervention, and less imperialism, just so that we can get these topics on people's minds and really take a step back. So that's what I think. I agree with Ancaps on a lot of things. I just think that as far as execution goes, I think that personally we should still utilize the state, and that's my little bit.
I have one objection to that.
Yeah.
The basis of minarchism basically just wants a small night watchman state government, right? So the problem I have is that governments are not based on size. They're based on how they violate rights. That's because since states inherently violate rights, that's how they are measured. So there's at no point that a state can really be small or big. It's just how it violates the rights of the people.
Well, I think a big part of the reason why so many libertarians are minarchists, and I don't mean to sound insulting, I'm honestly not trying to be.
Oh, that's cool, man. I don't take this personally.
I think that it's more of a fundamental misunderstanding of what the state is. You still see the state as some sort of entity which can be utilized as a force for good. But the fact of the matter is that if you actually look at the history of statism, the first governments emerged in ancient Mesopotamia around 5,500 years ago. Yeah. And what caused them to emerge was a result of one group establishing a monopoly on arbitration. And once you realize that, then your view of statism collapses pretty much immediately. That the only thing that a state is simply a group that's forced all competitors on arbitration out of the market and has declared their rule of law to be the only rule of law.
Absolutely.
So, but that's aside from the point. Just the idea that you can utilize the state to shrink the state goes against the nature of what a state is. A
Well, I
state.
suppose what I meant is getting citizens on board with the ideas and relay them, and then getting them to. I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess I was.
Well, as you know, states don't produce anything. That's the reason why anytime a service is provided by the state, it's always so shitty, is because the state doesn't have any marginal utility, and the only way that they obtain material to produce something is by declaring that people living under them have to hand over their accumulated property. So it's for that reason that the idea of minarchism goes against the nature of the state, because you're not going to be able to create a stable framework with a state when the state inherently needs to keep expanding itself to provide more and more services. And the other problem, I mean, even if you don't implement, like, even if you get rid of welfare and you leave it at the most bare bones night watchman state, you're still going to eventually get to a point where the state's going to expand because the population is going to expand so much and the economy is going to expand so much that the state is going to basically need to shut down the economy from overtaking it so that people don't just stop paying taxes altogether. Or, so, I sort of lost my chain of thought there. You know, they can keep funding their services because the population will expand so much that they need to keep doing that. And that's the reason why, this is sort of off topic, but I mean, we can see that states do this. I mean, there's a reason why all states eventually adopt fiat currency. And the reason for that is because their population expands to the point where reserves not enough, and they need to start making credit expansions in order to have their currency established. And I don't even think that minarchism is a good idea in principle, because essentially what you're doing is you're saying that the state, which we've established is this violent monopoly on arbitration, which only exists basically as a criminal element of society, is allowed to coerce people and do all these terrible things just to obtain profit for itself and the people running.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I think minarchists don't understand what a state is. States aren't there to protect your rights, because if you believe in any sense of natural law, the idea of a social contract or the state's existence coming into frame contradicts the idea of natural rights. Because
Yeah, it does.
okay, so if you believe in that, then you can't really believe in a state. And if you believe in the utility of the state, then you believe that violence is necessarily okay, that coercive violence is necessarily okay, which is why I reject the mere idea that we should do anything with the state. And I'm sure, are you at least somewhat familiar with the explanation of agorism? Because I don't even believe in voting.
I actually, you know what? I went on your channel and I was gonna watch that video, but I didn't have time. I was so close, but I didn't have time. I joined the video chat. But I guess my question would be, what I always think is interesting, is how could this idea of you know, removing the state completely, how would you market this to American citizens, right?
Well, that's why you need.
I can answer this one. I answered it in my video, Why Anarcho-Capitalism Will Succeed. Which
well, thank you. I'm gonna go get a drink of water, so that's where I'll be.
Okay, so
Yeah, thank you.
basically, you know, once the state goes into a crash, people will then put, their assets into cryptocurrencies because their reactions will be, this thing inherently has value because of its limited supply, and since demand for it will go up, the value of cryptocurrency will skyrocket. So then, markets will start existing, like businesses will start existing, and eventually after that, people will see, because anarcho-capitalism would have economic benefits, as more economic freedom equals more economic benefits. The people would look at that and say, oh, this is good, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna, I'm just gonna stop paying taxes altogether, because eventually at this point, the state would just be a parasite off of your income. And since private security firms would already exist, by the time the state tried to get, its currency supplies back together and its control back, it would already be too late, because you have these private security firms that will defend customers from the state. It's a natural way of, looking at the current events that are going on in society, and thinking, this is better, this is more profitable. Right.
If I could chime in quick, a while back, I made a video called "The Path to Anarcho-Capitalism," and I basically talked about how your question was, how do you sell this to the American people? I think what you need is a paradigm shift that gets people to realize that what makes a state is the fact that they use coercion to achieve their ends. In fact, they must use coercion, or else they're not a state. And I know this is when I was a minarchist, this is the point that I didn't understand. When it finally clicked in my mind, I realized it, because I think many Americans right now have it in their heads that police, military, courts, these are things that the state provides. And because they are things that the state provides, people almost have in their minds that if these things exist at all, they must be the state. Well, my question is, do you want police services? And most people say, yes, I want police services. Well, then why wouldn't you pay for them if they were available to you? Like, so what's the difference between the police that's provided by the government and private security? Well, fundamentally, the difference is you choose to pay for one, you're forced to pay for the other.
Yes.
So anytime someone says, well, we need government because military, we need government because courts. Well, the answer is, if you want it, you can pay for it voluntarily. But if it's provided by
crashed.
provided by
he left. So who's hosting the stream now?
Okay, wait. My 2 cents. To add on to that, I think that when agorism is basically at its starting stage, meaning that a counter economy is forming and businesses start appearing further out more than black markets, then since people stop paying taxes at this point, they will see, because the state's going to try and use violence and coercion to try and make them do it again. So I think
I think that that's not what you need to focus on. In fact, Atomic Ancap's explanation of how the counter economy would form, that's basically just word for word my own explanation I've given out in several videos. I mean, there's no problem with that, but my point,
I wanted to put it in one video, just so you could.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but my point is, by mentioning that, is that you don't actually need to spread the idea. You just need to give people a direct, objective reward incentive to do this. And that's the great thing about counter economics, is that you don't need to be a libertarian to work towards abolishing the state. Just anyone who wants profit will do that.
As a note, there is a question in the chat from That Jerk Online, and they said, how do you convince people to stop paying taxes and get private companies to, I will not use the word literally, this seems more of a figurative statement, but fight the state?
Well, it's pretty simple. You're making profit. You're not using the state services anymore. and the state is still collecting income of yours, or at least it's trying to. We're talking about cryptocurrency here, so you know, that can't really happen. But
I think it's more the concept of how would you achieve that point.
Yeah, how would you end the state, right? Like how would you well, there is the outcome where the state collapses upon itself, right?
Yeah, and I was explaining that is that you would either get to the point where nobody is trading in fiat anymore and nobody is giving anything to the state, and they just ignore the state, and the state simply dissolves because they can't send their police after people since they don't have any money, and even if they did, the private security firms that would be created by the counter economy would have basically the paid duty to protect their customers from the state.
So basically slowly starve out the state.
Well, that's essentially what the counter economy would do. And because that's effectively, well, not effectively, that's just what will inevitably be what causes the state to collapse, is people not giving money to the state and refusing to pay taxes, and then the state won't be able to send its police or military after people, so the state can't do anything. That's what will end the state, and the counter economy is really the only way to achieve that end in a way that is consistent and systematic, I suppose.
So it's the conceptual way that would be handled would be slowly starving out the state by basically not paying taxes anymore, making enforcement of things like taxes or stuff like that much more unrealistic.
Okay.
Well, yeah, when you have this giant profitable counter economy and you don't need the state anymore, that would just happen naturally, which is why I say I don't think you actually need to convince people of the virtues of libertarianism. I think that a libertarian society...
Chase, mute, Jesus.
I'm sorry, I'm muting now.
Okay. I think that a libertarian society... since agorism is a thing, libertarianism is more of a necessary course of nature rather than something we all need to ideologically push towards.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. Just, it was the question from the chat. I wanted to clarify it.
I mean, it's really, the question is more of when it will happen, not if it will. I think, honestly, with the way that the economy is looking right now, there's a more than decent chance that this could happen within like the next 10 years. This counter-economic structure could form, and if the state isn't gone, then at least the ball would get rolling to what would eventually cause the state to be abolished.
Fair enough. Americap, you want to take back over now?
Oh, God.
Yeah, long conversation.
No, I actually, I don't know if you noticed, but I was fucking with the bandwidth settings, seeing if I could get the audio to be a little bit less of a bitch, and it fucking dropped me from the chat, and I had a attack.
We noticed you got kicked.
Oh yeah, like I was sitting there, I was like, holy fuck, is the stream still going on? What just happened?
It'll go for 5 minutes after you leave, and then it'll cut out.
Oh god, I was so fucking, I was like panicking, I was like, shit.
Oh yeah, it's net neutrality, guys.
Yeah, must be it.
Oh god.
No, I just want to say, like, as just a former minarchist, now Ancap, what was keeping me from a song from becoming an Ancap was it was really just the war of words, really, and nothing works against it more than anarcho-capitalism. I mean, first you have the name itself, anarchy and capitalism. Two words. Anarchy is often associated with violence, even though that's not what it means. It's often associated with lawlessness, which is not what it means. It's often associated with all these negatives. and then you have capitalism, which is, you know, has its own set of negatives to the average person, you know, with greed and such. Of course, I don't see them that way, and I don't think any of you do, but there's a lot of people who do. And so there's that kind of fear, that kind of response people have when you say those words. And then on top of that, you know, you say something like it still kind of like makes me like cringe a little bit when I say something like, you know, democracy is basically mob rule, and it's evil, because democracy in our minds has kind of been etched as this symbol of freedom, even though it's quite the opposite. And so it really goes to show kind of the power of words. And I think that that's what keeps a lot of people from, a lot of minarchists from becoming Ancap as well. It's not like it's a combination of fear and ignorance, I think.
especially.
I think if I would say the public school system has been incredibly successful in indoctrinating people into the state. Children are taught from the time they're young, you need the government. The government is essential. Obey the government.
You should see some of the crap that people, like some of my fans send me who are still in schools. They'll take pictures of things that they put in their history books. I'm like taking together a compilation of these examples, but you would not even believe the crap that they're being taught in schools.
Can confirm.
Yeah, one of the, I think probably one of the most prominent examples, and I think you all would remember this, but it's that they teach in school that Herbert Hoover believed in laissez-faire economics, and laissez-faire economics caused the Great Depression.
I remember that.
Wait.
My social studies teacher actually, she was explaining it, but went into great lengths to not name, because she knew that I could have debunked that argument. Because I'm very vocal about being political in my school.
Oh yeah, like the first day I became an Ancap, I remember I was in my social psychology class, and I told my teacher, because I'm good friends with my psychology teacher. He's a nice guy, but I go, you know, I said, you know, what's the difference between, because I was telling him a joke that I had found in an anarchist like group chat, and I go, what's the difference between an Ancap and a minarchist? About 6 months, right? And right. he goes, wow, and he well, there was more context to it, but basically what he said was, wow, just, it's dangerous, man. It's a dangerous idea. And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
and that's the ultimate irony, is a statist calling an Ancap dangerous. But no, that's the one thing that is taught regularly in school, is that a completely unregulated market is just you're giving stuff over to big business, and that's incredibly dangerous. That's empowering them. But no, if you look at the lobbying record of all these big corporations like McDonald's or whatever, they're strong supporters of regulation.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing that's interesting for me too, is that, like, every business class I take, you know, because business is supposed to be the beginning of the free market, right? The beginning of it's well, I guess, you know, so someone selling something is business, right? And then so in business class,
what I was getting
how important regulation is, and then in the back of your head, you're like, wait, what? Like,
but what I was getting to is that a lot of people try and treat laissez-faire economics like it's just people who are too unskeptical of corporations. Well, no, I'd say it's the opposite. The people who are the most skeptical of big business are the people who support laissez-faire economics, because they don't believe that because they see the lobbying history of these companies, and they see all of them support these regulations, and then they see what these regulations do to the economy, and see that they essentially are only just being used by these companies to keep competitors out of the market by making it so expensive that only the biggest of corporations can operate in it. So
back to things that that kids are taught in schools, public schools.
I've got plenty of them. Let me see if I can find my folder real quick. You could say some in the meantime.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of crap during this year, but one of the things that hit me the most only happened yesterday when we had our social studies exam. And on one of the questions, it said, the American government's economic system is what? And then it had the list like command economy, free enterprise, and communism. And, since it's indoctrination, everyone, answered, well, it's free enterprise, right? And I couldn't bring myself to click free enterprise, but I had to do it anyway because, I'm a Nazi about my grades. But yeah, it's a bunch of crap that you're taught in public schools.
Oh, here's one that someone sent me. Ayn Rand's economic ideology led to the housing crisis of 2008.
Jesus Christ, that's fucking retarded.
Well, I'd like to
I'm gonna
bring
need
up-
a photo of that.
I went to school in Sweden
Please.
for a little bit, and in my economics class, we talked about the political the economic spectrum, as to where countries lie, and
Is this like
they
the gender
admitted,
spectrum?
they were like, oh yeah, America is not free market, and I was like, whoa, you guys got it on point, even though you're filled with social programs and things like that. But it's interesting that we have this ideal American self of this free market, world that we like to think we believe in, and that's what we tell ourselves that's where we live, but we can't admit it. It's kind of weird.
Hey, listen to this one. Bill Clinton saved the economy with NAFTA after the .com crash.
What?
I have no fucking idea what they're talking about.
Like that in sixth grade.
That's all that someone
I
sent
didn't
me.
care. Now I realize how stupid that is.
I have no fucking idea. Can somebody explain that to me?
No, it's like an actual picture from their textbook that they took. It's not like a Photoshop picture or anything.
What the hell?
Okay. Just answer me this, Esoteric. Is it the equivalency of saying that Bill Clinton was pro-family values because he got a blowjob in the Oval Office?
That specific statement? No, it's like saying that Bill Clinton is an evangelical favorite because he gets a blowjob in the Oval Office.
Okay, so it is ridiculousness. That's fair enough.
Because first of all, it's not even wasn't NAFTA signed in '97 and the .com crash happened in '99. That's like not even historically accurate.
Yeah, the .com bubble happened at the very tail end of Bill Clinton's presidency. So to say he fixed it is like that would have been impossible. It was.
Yeah, they didn't even get the fucking timeline correctly.
It was a preemptive.
It was signed
it was
into
a
law
preemptive defense.
December 8th, 1993, and it went into effect on 94.
Bill Clinton is a time lord, and he could see the future.
Yeah, so he
Fucking
passed
magical
NAFTA to he knew that it would stop the .com crash.
I remember I had a political science class, and this was like my first semester of college, right? And I was in class, right? And she was like, going on and on about bullshit. And then finally she goes, she's talking about the political she's talking about the welfare state. And she goes, only far-right extremists want to completely abolish the welfare state. And I'm like, wow, way to just throw all the people who don't believe in your fucked up version of charity into the extremist pile. Like, way to throw just, normal people into the extremist pile. Like, I was just like, I guess little old me is just a far-right extremist.
There's two ways to look at that, though, because the common person, like we've been saying, that they believe that the government, I mean, I guess, we could say that most people do believe that the government is, the one that provides, which is bullshit. We know that we provide to the government, who ends up just recycling our money and losing half of it. But it's I guess that thing is that she's
6.5
kind of
trillion.
right. She's kind of right. I mean, like in a really scary way that a lot of people do want to, but a lot of people don't want to abolish the welfare state just because they think it's the only way to help people, and they don't know that there's better, more efficient alternatives that don't involve stealing people's money at gunpoint.
We have another question from the chat. How would an anarcho-capitalist society handle abortion? We know fetuses are human beings and all human beings are entitled to their right to life, but we also know that prohibition never works.
The same way we would deal with murder, but more specifically, I don't think companies would be exchanging in abortion acts because that doesn't make them look good in a society which views the killing of another human being as wrong and unjustified on every level, or most every level.
It's also because you'd be stopped from doing that. I mean, it's sort of the same thing. Like, what if you hired a hitman? I'm not saying that getting an abortion is the same thing as being a fucking hitman. What I'm saying is that they're both unjustifiable for the same reason, or they're just in the same ballpark. You're paying somebody to kill someone else.
Well, since I know the question's going to come up, what about threats to life? Like, if the baby was carried to term, it would lead to the death of the mother.
Okay, well, I mean, that's a different situation altogether.
I know.
But yes, I mean, I think there are circumstances where you have what's in philosophy called the doctrine of double effect. But like, I know the question that always comes up is the issue of an ectopic pregnancy, where the fetus implants outside the womb in the outer fallopian tube, and if it's allowed to develop there, it'll rupture, cause the mother and but from the point that the fetus implants, it is doomed. There is no way. Medical science does not know of any way to deattach it and put it in the womb without ending its life.
Yeah,
however, if it's allowed,
if that's the point, that baby is not alive to begin with. So that's the thing with that.
Mm-hmm. But
so there would be exceptions.
Yeah, well, the point is, if you have to, basically, in order to save you either allow the pregnancy to go to term and lose 2 lives, or you end one life and you save one life by ending the other, because the other one, the fetus's life at that point cannot be saved. It's unless maybe in the future medical technology finds a way that you could save both lives. But I'd say there are all kinds of ethical dilemma scenarios where we'd say the moral thing to do is to save one life rather than lose 2.
Yeah, well, in that case, both of them are going to die if you don't. And so at that point, it wouldn't necessarily be fair to call the baby an aggressor, but it would be at that point more like a disease, essentially, more like a cancer.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I gotta go.
All right. Now I am I'm anti-abortion, but the thing that a lot of people don't understand is it's not that one side is not against life and the other side is not anti-choice. It's really a debate regarding the scientific facts of what the status of a fetus's mortality is. If the baby's alive, then it's murder. If the baby is not alive and is just a bundle of cells, then it's not murder, and it's a matter of bodily autonomy.
So how do you decide? Oh, here's one thing. How would you decide? Like, I know the whole idea of precedence is kind of weird, but I mean, would precedence still exist in a country?
I'm sorry, this is going to drive me fucking insane. Precedent.
Sorry, geez. Yeah.
Sorry, no.
You mean context? No, context is like the most important thing in regarding whether or not something's ethical or not. It means everything.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's true. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, would the society, like, so you said that you would treat, if it was a life, you would treat abortion the same way as you would treat murder. But who would be the one that decides that? Would it be the society? And if the society doesn't have a majority, if it's still very divided, then, you know, would it just be up to the person, right? Because that would
be decided.
That's like saying that somebody, like if that were the case, no, it's murder because it's murder because somebody is being murdered. I mean, are you trying
There's
to?
a loss of human
I'm sort of hung up on what you're trying to say here. Are you trying to say that it can't be ethically decided whether or not something is murdered because the fetus doesn't have any other family?
No, I'm talking about legal consistency. So I'm talking about like just, this doesn't really just apply to abortion, but legal consistency is a pretty important thing, in my opinion. Like the fact that if you're from one area, right, and you, let's say you commit a murder and then you go to another area where that is not really, like, abortion is not treated as murder, would you still have to face the consequences? If this is just a question, how would you deal with inconsistency in law without a centralized state?
Well, inconsistency of laws, that's more just you get one bad court and you go to another. If you can prove that the court was acting unethically, or you can demonstrate, then you could still argue for your case, because that's the thing. That's the thing with no monopoly on arbitration. Is you'd get multiple different practices. Essentially, what you would get is I'm trying to think of the term right now. Jury nullification, which is essentially that's what the root of all justice is. I mean, we've had historical cases where you have the monopoly on arbitration being held up specifically by the jury. And I suppose in this regard, culture does matter. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, if you can demonstrate something is unethical, then you'd be hard pressed to find a court which wouldn't prosecute that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any more Kesters.
As a note loosely related to this topic, because it's actually been something I've been wondering about. Say there are two societies within, let's take America, turn it into an anarcho-capitalist society. There's two of the smaller units that have a major disagreement. And let's use abortion as an example. One believes it's completely acceptable to do, and the other feels it's completely unapologetically evil to do. Does the one that thinks it's evil have the right to come over and try to stop the one that thinks it's acceptable because they disagree?
What are your thoughts on that, my 2 cents? Because, that's a question I haven't been asked before, so I got to think about it.
Okay, well, I'm going to say this. I think we do have there are historic examples you could point to where we have things like that happening. I'm going to use this as an example. Pre-Civil War, slavery is not legal in the North. It is legal in the South. So I think it would be kind of parallel to saying that you have one city over here that thinks it's okay to oppress and enslave black people because they happen to believe that black people don't have souls. Let's just say that's their justification.
Yeah,
you have another city, or something like that. You have another city where they say, no, they are absolutely fellow human beings with a capacity for rationality like we do. You absolutely do not have the right to enslave them. Now, I think what makes it so, what makes this issue more obviously unethical is the fact that the black people who are being enslaved possess the ability to complain, as it were. You can see their suffering and the violation of their rights is much more visible given the fact that they're born. Now, in the case of an unborn fetus, yes, scientifically speaking, absolutely they are a living, functioning human being, and therefore it is murder. But because they yet lack the ability to speak up for themselves, it's the issue isn't as pressed as forcefully. So I would say yes, the one society would have the right to defend the lives of the unborn against the other one.
It wouldn't necessarily be two split societies. How private security firms would work in this setting is they would just sort of be everywhere. There would be companies and they'd have multiple different branches. So it's more than likely they'd have branches in every society. I mean, they're not ideologically divided.
Yeah, but if you're considering the concept that every area pays for that particular private security, what's the solution if, let's say, these two companies both give private security, but one has a lenient stance on abortion, the other has a hard stance on no abortion, and these two, let's say, communities disagree on which one's acceptable? It's still like two opposing forces.
At this point, yeah, you're sort of drawing this ideological line, and if you can't defend it in court,
that's kind of the point.
If you can't defend your line of reasoning in a neutral court, because courts aren't supposed to be ideological, and no one wants an ideological court. So if you go to a neutral court, and that's what you explain your line of reasoning, and the other line of reasoning, this one line of reasoning works and the other doesn't, then that's just sort of, that's what decides it.
Okay.
You know, I think I just want to point out, I don't think that I understand why you're asking the question, but I actually don't think it is in fact likely at this point that we would have such a huge divide. Because when polled, if I'm not mistaken, this could have changed. It's been a few years since I looked at the statistics, but the vast majority of Americans do in fact oppose abortion. And even in 1973, before Roe v. Wade, the vast majority of Americans opposed abortion. It's only because 9 unelected lawyers, by legislating from the bench, basically threw out, prior to Roe v. Wade, every state in the nation had laws against abortion. The Supreme Court in that one case took every law in every state and threw them out and made it unconditionally legal with the force of the federal government to enforce it. I don't think without that, there would not be a majority of society that supported abortion. Would there still be people who would try to seek them? Yes. There are still people who try to murder others even though it's illegal. In Ancapistan, there would still, undoubtedly, there would still be people who would try to get abortions. There would probably be, because no security system is perfect, some people would probably get away with it, but it would still be recognized as murder.
Yeah, no, it's
they'd have a harder time getting away with it. And yeah, that's what I was going to say, is just because something is unethical and you can be taken to court over something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to happen. And that's something that a lot of people misunderstand with natural law, is that we're not saying that these things won't happen, only that you can't possibly justify them, and therefore good luck trying to defend yourself in court.
Well, it's basically the one kind of rule of thumb that that basically, just reasonably speaking, can be universally applied in a sense. All of the laws are sort of they're arbitrary in a sense. You know, there's some people who disagree on. There's some people who agree we should outlaw drugs. There are others that don't. But natural law is the only really truly consistent law, and that's
Well,
go ahead.
I'm actually going to disagree with that about it being consistent. There are two positions that could be consistent. There's only one position that is consistent and can be practically applied, because those two positions are: 1, natural law; 2, might makes right. Now, in principle, might makes right could be consistently applied, but no one practically can do that. A person can claim, I believe, might makes right.
No one can ethically justify might makes right, though.
Well, the reason that I use abortion is because it is a heavily polarizing topic. It could be any disagreement. It's just how would it be settled? And Esoteric and 2 cents answered that with a court system, which makes sense.
That's the thing with abortion. Okay, what are the facts on it, and what do the facts dictate about the ethics of abortion?
I understand.
It would be that simple.
So
fair enough. I appreciate the explanation.
I wanted to ask another question, just to get a bearing, because so the whole thing about private security, do you think that it would be possible? So even if it starts out, you're privately funding this, it's completely voluntary. You're privately funding this private security firm, and they are based upon force. That's what private security is. Do you think that it's possible that, since it's private security is this liaison to keep order, that it is possible that anyone who stops paying for the private security is kind of blackmailed into this thing where it's like, okay, you stop paying for it, and now we're going to treat you like trash and you're going to die. And then now you just have another kind of state almost created through force, or do you think that competition would stop that?
That's another key to agorism, is that after the economy is decentralized, how exactly would you be able to do that? That's the problem. You can't really establish sort of monopoly that works that way, because just according to any potential centralized bank or centralized system that keeps track of people's finances, everyone has $0. You can't even really keep track of who has a wallet and who doesn't. So how would you do that?
Then how would the firms be able to respond to your, or say, emergency or whatever, like first responders? Would it be would you have to pay for that individual instance, or would it be almost like, I guess, a subscription or a tax kind of, or would you be paying for that specific instance?
It would actually depend, because as you know, in a private voluntarist society, paying for something wouldn't be the only means of exchange. So it could be a subscription service. It could be you just pay them after they've done the work and they send you the bill. Or you could hook yourself up with a mutual aid society, as long as it's voluntary.
Yeah, the point of an Ancap society is essentially, rather than having a single monopoly of force just arbitrarily dishing it out, you have options. And so if you don't like the way one private security firm or one private court is doing things, you can, or if it's not sufficiently protecting you, I would say, or you don't feel like you're sufficiently protected by the one you're with, you can find another one. And so this incentivizes private security firms to not only be fair, but to protect its customers fairly. And if private security firms, just to answer what you're talking about, if a private security firm were to, say, just completely walk past somebody getting stabbed in an alley, and just completely ignore it, it would look really bad on them. So they may even incentivize help those who haven't paid.
Well, that happens now with the police, but the thing with private security firms is, customers, they need to be protected. Otherwise, they're not going to get money from them anymore. They're either going to be dead and can't pay them, or they're going to be going to a security firm that'll protect them sufficiently. So the idea of officers from a private security firm just walking past somebody getting stabbed is unheard of.
Oh yeah, no, it's one of those things. Like even the Supreme Court ruled that police officers don't actually have any obligation to protect you, and so there was actually a case where a guy, went on a train and he saw like this, mass murderer basically who was plastered on the place wanted, and there was like two cops in the other car, and he started struggling with the guy, and the guy stabbed him multiple times, and the cops just stood there and watched it happen. And the guy tried to sue for medical bills, but according to that Supreme Court decision, they had no obligation to help. And so, as is, you have a society, like even worst case scenario in an Ancap society, let's say that it did happen, that exact thing. At least in an Ancap society, there is incentive to help. There is some form of incentive, whereas policemen literally have none.
That's the thing, is in an ANCAP society, no one's necessarily forced to help you either. You can't force somebody to give service to you because that's slavery.
Yeah.
But, and that's the contradiction with the state, is that you can't both be served by something which domineers over you. But the closest you can get is with something that has the incentive to serve you, so they won't refuse service if you pay them, or just under any motivation that they have to serve you.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but it's getting a little late in my corner of the world. I gotta take off. Thanks for having me.
See ya.
Later, 2 cents.
Later.
All right, so now we've got Esoteric, Americap, Chase, and me. That's who's left, folks.
But yeah, it's interesting to me. Like whenever I hear Status kind of tell me, like half the time their worst case scenarios are I don't know how to put this into words, but like the worst things they describe possible of happening in Ancapistan, if you will, are honestly like they already happen. Like they say, well, what about a private court? Wouldn't somebody just bribe them? They would be, they would be biased or whatever. And I tell them, you already have a court system that's biased and almost entirely based on who has more money.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. The current court system isn't, they can be bribed. No, they are bribed. That's that's inherently how the court system works, because they're run by the same people who have a monopoly on arbitration. If one of the people, like one of the politicians, gets in trouble, they're not going to get prosecuted. They own the court system.
Yeah, and that's why I tell them, like, it's if you're so concerned about something being because of a profit incentive, all right, look at your own system, what it has done. Look at the fact that almost always the victor in a court case is almost always determined by who had the more expensive lawyer. Tell me that, and then compare that to a society in which if the court system is caught taking bribes, the private court, if it's caught taking bribes, if it's caught being unfair, if the customers feel like they weren't treated fairly, then next time they have a case, they're going to go somewhere else, and nobody will use your firm. And so it's almost it's kind of funny to me when I hear arguments like that, because I'm like, what you have now is actually worse than what you're describing to me would happen.
I've heard some of these really absurd ones. One time I heard somebody say that if the post office was privatized, nobody would get mail.
Oh my God.
Why wouldn't they?
Fucking
stupid. Well, it's also funny because have you guys ever heard of somebody named Lysander Spooner?
You did send me that article. I've been meaning to read it.
Well, he's basically my favorite political philosopher, but to demonstrate a point, he actually founded a privatized mail company to compete with the government, even though it was illegal, called the American Mail Company, and they outcompeted the government. They shipped their mail faster and at a cheaper price.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. I was actually learning in history class, because my teacher, he's not a libertarian. He's just he's kind of old-fashioned conservative Republican. he was immediately in the South after slavery had ended, during like, you know, the black codes and whatnot, because black students basically didn't have an option. They couldn't go to the public schools there. They basically had their own little communities, and they had voluntary taxes basically to pay for the schools, and they ended up being some of the best schools in the entire country.
Voluntary taxes. That's an oxymoron. No, they just
but well, yeah. I mean, I said that more as a turn of phrase, but voluntarily. But what I mean is that, like, basically, it was just through voluntarily donating to the school system, and they basically had private schools because in the black communities, these schools, like, education was the most important thing to them. And so that's why, like, it was kind of funny. Like, you'll often see in the South, like, you know, like fifth generation, you know, black lawyers and doctors, and it's all because these schools are still some of the best in the country today, and they're all privately funded. And every kid in these communities was able to go to school because of them.
Oh, and yeah. So, I'm sure you know that's not a coincidence, but even aside from the obvious economic problems with public school, you also have the fact that every public school system in the Western world is based off what they call the Prussian model of education.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with it. I forgot whose video. I think it was the Filthy Heretics video I watched on it.
Yeah.
Pretty scary shit.
Yeah, I was the one who actually taught him about that, and I have my video called Why Public Schools Should Be Abolished. But yeah, the public school system today, long story short, is basically modeled after a system which was created by the monarch of Prussia to indoctrinate his population into being obedient for the monarchy in a time where people were becoming skeptical of the monarchy's authority.
Yeah, and I've always been, well, not always, I should say. Well, it's funny, like, public schools really didn't get introduced until basically a popular sovereignty. Cracking the popular sovereignty, when it was introduced, basically universal white male suffrage. And I'm not saying white male, that's just like how it was described, the class. It's not, it was basically like when that happened, it's described that way, but it was basically poor people got the vote. Because of that, people started arguing that in order to allow everyone to vote, they needed to all be educated. But I mean, look where the fuck that got us.
Americap?
Yeah.
How much longer do you think we're going to be going? Because we're down to 4. I could call Mocha in now.
Huh?
We're down people? Like, we're only at 4 people in here, so I could send Mocha the link now. The person I was talking about at the beginning of the... When we started?
Yeah, you could. How much longer do you guys think you could go? Just everyone that's in here?
Probably a little while longer, at the very least.
Yeah, I'm thinking 20 to 30
who
minutes.
is that you're thinking about sending a link to?
Mocha Rosary. I know she's friends with Reason. That's about all I know who she knows.
Yeah. I could go for another 15, 30 minutes.
All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and send her the link? Might be interesting.
I'll drop it to her. And there we go. All right.
Whose car is getting broken into?
God damn it. It's Chase being near the fucking highway again. God damn it.
I knew this again, don't worry. You know, thinking that Starbucks is a good place for a conference call is a very wrong cliche.
See, this is what happens when you deal with the left.
Yep, exactly.
No, but
fucking Starbucks.
God. No, but I want to.
I have baby siblings, so it's a little crazy in the house.
Hola.
Hey.
Hello.
How you doing? Doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
That's good. That's good, man. What's the conversation about?
Anarcho-Capitalism. And car alarms.
Well, it's sort of over at this point, but yeah, that's what it was about.
Oh, okay. Okay, what is it about currently then?
Chase being in a shitty Starbucks and being loud as fuck.
Yep.
Yeah, he leaves his mic unmuted for like more than a minute. You'll hear the sound of like motorcycles and shit.
I ain't gonna say much about this, but Esoteric, you sound like you have that fucking helmet on right now, so you got no room to talk.
I got what?
Sounds like you got that fucking helmet on.
How does it sound like I have a helmet on?
I don't know. Both y'all fix your fucking mic.
Is it the fan in the background? To not turn
No,
the fan
you
off.
sound like you're here. Let me emulate what you sound like.
It's because it's through my webcam's audio. Let me see.
That is exactly what the issue is.
Gross. I'm so
What the
sorry.
hell
That's
are you
gross.
like? What the hell do you record with?
Like-
You sound fine in your videos.
No, seriously, that's what I was thinking. I was like, Chase is doing this on a phone and it sounds better. Like, what the fuck?
Is this better?
That sounds a little better, but it's kind of low.
Okay. Let me try and fix the audio.
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
yeah,
fucking
man.
there he
There it
goes.
is.
Now he
So
sounds like
clear.
a human.
Oh my god,
instead of
that
a
sounds
fucking
1,000
Autobot.
times better. No, but
Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's exactly what the problem was. Is my microphone was attached to my webcam.
But Ichabod, the reason why I messaged you, summoning you, is because I wanted to show you something very gross.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Come on, you love watching when those motherfuckers review shit that's in a can.
Buffer state?
I don't. It's nasty. Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay, pretty much we were watching the other day. We were watching a person taking a whole chicken out of a can. And it was the most disgusting, gross shit.
Wait, like they put...
Shoving it up their ass,
how-
right?
How do they... Wait a second. I'm still trying to figure out how you... Wait, like an entire chicken?
An
Yes.
entire cooked chicken in
How
a
does-
can.
How do you physically...
A big can.
It was a big
oh,
can.
I've seen that before. It fucking comes out in pieces, doesn't it? Like
Yes!
it's just sludge. It's
It's
so
It was a
nasty.
gross
gelatinous
and
dough,
disgusting.
I shit you not.
And the top of it has like a fatty film that
Oh my
like when it's
God.
coming out it like has like it looks like
It's and lubed for
Ugh.
you.
I get the feeling that Americap is the only one who's going to understand this. You ever got government cheese and government beef?
Oh yeah, I know that.
Just a can that says beef across.
Oh yeah.
That's what it looks like when it first comes out of the can. Except it's just a
Jesus.
fucking chicken.
well actually the beef looks a little bit better. Honestly. It looks
I've seen a cheeseburger in a can.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that
They're
one
doing
too.
a review of that as well, so Ichabod.
No
Y'all
more.
can join if y'all want to cringe with us.
Fucking torturing me.
Oh god damn it.
I fucking love putting that shit on. I have an entire playlist for Ichabod.
That's how you fall asleep.
Yeah, see, he's gonna
No.
go to sleep. He's gonna go.
But
Ugh.
like, what was the video of, or was that just it taking chicken out of a can?
It was taking chicken out of a can and he ate it.
He
Oh.
tasted it and it just
Oh my god.
No.
He put it in his mouth and he just heard him go.
Okay, from now on I'm just calling it double E because it's easier. But no, seriously. Like, it is the nastiest thing you've ever seen. It's not as bad as the octopus looked.
What octopus? What the hell?
Also, octopus and mushrooms in a can, it looked like... Have you ever eaten Cocoa Puffs and then got sick everywhere?
Mhm.
That's what...
No, I have not.
I can't say
Okay.
that's happened to me,
Also,
but-
there's breakfast in a can.
No,
a whole
why?
breakfast in a can.
Everyone,
beautiful.
click on the link that I just put in chat. Do not screen share that video, or you will get banned.
What? Oh shit.
I will save that for later, E. Because
You're gonna have to send
Security
it to me
clearance.
later because I'm fucking technologically impaired.
Yeah, but this dude also eats like military food and shit. And he's like, how do they survive?
I'm not gonna lie though, Double E.
Some of them it's really good. These tweets are good.
I doubt the fact that would be the thing that got me banned if I were to play that song, because Mocha had me play Ethno Imperialists, the metal song, on my show, and I still haven't gotten banned for that shit.
Oh no!
I played it on my show. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of fucking.
If you show that video on stream, you're gonna get banned. Like I don't even want to describe it because it's intended to be like one of those trolley videos. But if you click on it and you show it on stream, you're gonna get banned. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Oh my
challenge accepted.
Oh no! Oh my god! Like I am actually just waiting for my channel to get. I know it's inevitable. Like for now, I think I'm off their radar. YouTube's radar.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'm at like 40. I'm not gonna show it on stream, but like, I'm just waiting for the fucking email.
And you are currently at 41 subscribers.
Holy shit!
But just so you know, by your number of subscribers, you were actually in like what was it, Ichabod? Because we actually looked at this up. I think it was like the top 50.
Yeah, once you have over, I think, 20 subscribers, you reach the top 50%. Then once you hit over 100, you're in the top 10, and over 500, you're in the top 1%.
I'm in the top 1%.
I'm in the top 1% with both my channels. Ooh.
Yeah,
oh my god,
I know.
I had freaking before I got.
Yeah, you're on both my channels too, Ichabod.
Before I got. Before I got banned for being too edgy and telling truths that are too edgy on YouTube last time, I had 3,300 subscribers.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, so.
Shit.
I just want to make enough to pay for the fucking internet.
I honestly, like, when I first started this channel, I had no idea where it would go, and that's why I abandoned it for 6 months. Like, I started it, made a really cringy, shitty, like, libertarian philosophy video with, like, the absolute most horrendous audio I think you will ever see. And then I just took a fucking hiatus for 6 months, and then about maybe a month and a half ago, I thought, maybe I should give this a shot again. Also, I had kind of a scare. I thought, like, I started noticing I had certain symptoms of Parkinson's, and I was like, I basically freaked myself the fuck out. Luckily, it turned out just of other factors like over-caffeinated and shit like that.
I am going to tell you something that I will tell every other YouTuber on the planet if ever asked. Never let something like
that shit, all right?
A medical diagnosis make you stop doing something you love.
Oh no, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's because you have cancer, so shut up.
Fuck you, just because I'm on borrowed time.
Fuck you! Go get some more motherfucking chemo.
Hey, I fucking... God damn it, that reminds me, I have to call my case manager and figure out when the fuck I have to go in again. You suck! Don't make me fucking think about that shit, it's depressing enough.
I think Esoteric's still trying to fucking process that for a second.
God damn it.
See the video that I just put in the chat on the side of the call?
I love you, Ichabod, just remember that. I'm only mean to you because I love you.
Cigarettes and Valentine's.
Click on it, though.
No, it's a virus. It's a verse.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It has an "I love you" virus on it. Don't do it.
Oh God.
It's an edgy song.
Of course, Double E's being edgy.
But I will say this: if y'all are done, doing the discussion on the Ancaps and the shit, I'll just drop my Discord right here, and we all can go watch disgusting shit.
All right.
Or car wrecks, whatever the fuck y'all want to watch.
Jesus Christ.
No. You don't understand. That's some funny ass shit.
Car wrecks count as edgy. So
no, it is actually not that edgy at all, because the entire reason to watch them is because to look at people's stupidity.
It's great. It's great stress relief.
Yeah.
Like watching people fly out of their
watching that shit, and you'd be like, nah, nothing's gonna happen, and then some bitch decides to go Asian.
God damn it.
And cut across the entire freeway like off that movie.
There's just something about watching someone fly through their windshield. It's just a great stress reliever. Like,
not that far. Not that far. Not that far. We're not going live leak.
No, have you guys seen that video where the guy's like halfway through his windshield and the reporter's got a microphone up to him? Like what?
How does this make you feel?
No, it was like,
Ow,
something,
motherfucker.
yeah, no, it was like, how do you, or did you fly? Did you forget to wear a seatbelt? And he goes, no, bitch, I'm a Decepticon that broke halfway through. Like, I don't know why that reminded me of that meme. It was hilarious. I don't describe it well.
Watching cruise boat crashes is also really satisfying.
Oh, nice.
No,
it's
the boat thing
slow.
hurts me because I fucking love boats. And
If you
to
want
see
to
a
see
boat
like,
get hurt is like, oh, I would have loved that boat. I would have caressed that boat.
if you want to see the edgiest shit you can, then yeah, live leaks is where you want to go. Don't
Wait, is it
don't go
legal?
to the
Is it like legally edgy?
like people shooting
Well, there's
themselves
actually
in the
live
face
leak,
on live stream and stuff
Twitter.
like that.
Not Twitter. I mean, a live leak. No, there actually is a live leak Twitter, but there's also a live leak YouTube channel if you want the censored version. That's what I show on my channel all the time. Is the censored version of like all the live leak shit.
It's live stream fails, and because they're live streams, you can catch
Except for one, I don't know how they got
really
away with it.
on there.
Yeah, like on the live leak one, there was a bride dies after going through a I think it was a plane tour or whatever. And I'm like, it was like newlywed bride or some shit. And I'm like, oh my god. Click. Morbidly curious. They didn't show shit, but still I was like, oh my god. That sucks.
Fucking nice.
Yeah, as a side note, I probably should have mentioned this ahead of time. Mocha is a monster.
Yeah.
But
I am
I
self-proclaimed
have to go.
monster. I've never claimed to be anything else.
I have to go.
I
By the way.
will
Go to my Discord. I want to show you shit.
I have to go for a bit.
No,
okay?
you do not have to go.
I do have to go. Wake
No.
me up
Up
before you go.
go.
Finish.
Just go.
But yeah, I wish I would have like fasted before I streamed today, because otherwise I wouldn't have had to so many or pauses, because that's what happens when I eat food and I don't like it.
Wait, how?
What? When I am healthy and nutritious,
It's
I
called
say
the itis. It's
It
an
bogs
effect
me
called the
down.
itis.
I don't like it.
When you eat food, like especially comfort food, like chicken and waffles, some good chicken and waffles, makes you
I can't
sleepy.
eat chicken, so that's not
and your
comfort for me.
brain's just like asleep.
Yeah, it bogs me down, especially when it's like 120 degrees outside. So
Yeah, you just feel like a turtle, like a desert tortoise.
it's probably not even 120. It's more like 80. It's just I have a fucking computer on and my window's closed, so it's like 120 in here.
Yeah, I think it's about 60
Damn.
where I am.
I honestly, this went really well. I think I'm gonna do more of
Yeah.
these. I really liked the stream. Like
I learned a lot. It was nice. Like I liked it because, you know, like I said, the most I've experienced of Ancap is those really crappy anonymous videos that are just like confusing as hell.
Yeah.
So it was nice for me being like just a bread and butter like libertarian to hear the some people talk about the ideology. So that was fun.
Yeah, it's nice to hear someone who disagrees with me that's not just autistically screeching and calling me an idiot.
That's why he didn't allow me to come in here.
Yeah, I think that's like the best way to talk about things is to just take the emotion out of it, right? Because then you can get straight to the facts and the actual reason of it. I think like it doesn't matter who you're arguing with, like even if they're the most hardcore SJW, if you can like remove emotion from the conversation altogether, which is most of the time impossible for SJWs.
And a lot of the time they project and act like I'm the one who's being hostile to the discussion. Like, don't you hate that when they do that?
Oh,
No, I literally don't even care. Like, I made that pretty clear. I actually don't care how my ideology is represented because I don't think it matters.
Yeah, because all you are ANCAPs, right?
So we don't.
Or ANCOMs. Which one are you?
I'm an ANCAP.
Okay, ANCAP. I went down the line. I think American Cap is an ANCAP. But what are you, Arrows?
I'm just a libertarian. So
Okay. because
Yeah.
like legit, I've only dealt with like Ancoms,
Oh.
and they always like, we're gonna dox
Oh,
you.
Well,
We're
they're
gonna
the ones.
we're gonna ruin your life. We're gonna make sure you get fired from your job. That was the last one that I had to
Yeah,
deal with.
they're the ones that are always talking about revolution or trying to vote to
Well,
implement their
no.
ideas.
Oh, he also said ass. He's gonna ass rape me, which was
Oh,
also a funny
No,
one.
Ancoms, what I find just so ironic is even by their best definition of what anarchy is, removing hierarchy. I mean, the state in and of itself would be technically a hierarchy to some
Well,
degree.
the thing is
and
that
it would,
they're
it would require a
redefining-
state.
they're redefining what it means. First of all, I mean, they'll give you the definition anarchos, which Greek means no rulers, pretty simply. But
Yeah.
also, but what they'll do is they'll shift the goalpost. What they'll say is, well, no, anarchists seek to abolish unjustified hierarchies. But
Well, the thing
ANCAPs
is, I just proved the entire time I was like in there, I was trying to be as nice as possible. I know I'm a kind of a cunt, but I try to be nice. I
Well,
attempt.
and
The thing
though,
is, like, I attempted with them, and I said, okay, you want a place full of no government, no control over anyone, not a single person, right? And like, yeah, I'm like, okay, let's say you start a fucking tribe, right? And you're fully free, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Y'all are helping each other, blah blah blah. Well, they decide, fuck you, and kick your ass out because you're being kind of a cunt. And then
yeah,
you start up a separate area with people who agree with you. Now they see that you have a different resource that the original place wanted. Now that you and your group have, so they say, you know what? Let's go fuck these guys up and go take that shit.
That's
and
the
then,
internal contradiction with so-called collectivist anarchism. Because the thing is that communism or socialism, these wouldn't even be inconsistent ideas if they existed in an individualist framework. So if you wanted to establish a socialist or communist society, you just got together a bunch of like-minded people and established a commune. That would be fine.
Well, no. Well, the entire point I was getting to was, and then to defend your place, you had to have everyone in your party rise up to defend it.
Yeah,
and then they don't want to.
But
so
what
are you now the government having to enforce that they have to?
But what I'm getting to, I'm talking about something entirely different. The collectivists
I was just
don't. But the collectivists, they don't believe in that system. They believe in basically, I mean, the way they describe it is they want to establish a centralized worker council, which they all vote for how things should work in society. Well, that's just a state, except you don't call it a state. It's a monopoly on arbitration, and you can't refuse association with it, and it's able to force its will onto you. So how is that not just a state?
Oh yeah, like it's one of the main criticisms of it. That the anarcho-communism in and of itself, because communism requires a state to redistribute wealth, or at least some form of authority, whether that is some form that, like in a commune in which you kind of, okay, well, we're going to, that it requires, especially on massive scale, some form of central authority to act, and in any way. So I've always said, like, if you actually go by, oh, you're taking off Esoteric?
No, that wasn't me. That was Mocha.
Oh, I figured, like, when it slid over, it like showed the word bubble above your head.
Oh. Yeah. But that's the thing, though, and why I say communism or socialism could work in an individualist anarchy is because it doesn't have that problem. It has the worker council, but no one is coerced by its authority, and it doesn't have any authority. No one's forced to associate with it.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't want to be a member of that society, you actually could just leave. Whereas in a society where the worker council has a monopoly on arbitration, that's not the case.
Oh, yeah.
An example that ANCOMs or the collectivists point to a lot is Catalonia. Well, that's exactly what happened in Catalonia. The worker council established a monopoly on arbitration. No one was allowed to leave. They forced people into work at gunpoint. They killed people for having ideologies they didn't agree with. It just wasn't an anarchist society.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the thing that like the anarcho-communist, like, that shouldn't even be a term. Like scientifically, that I've never even really taken the thought seriously, just because it's like it's just fucking ridiculous. Like,
well, that's the thing. You can have societies like that, like the Zapatistas or Exarchia. Those are individualist societies that have a communist or socialist economy. That can exist, but that's the thing. All these ANCOMs have to do is they have to drop Marxism in order for their ideology to be consistent. That's all they have to do.
Oh yeah.
If it wasn't for that aspect, all communism or socialism would be is a competing economic model.
Yeah.
I've always
like
said to go ahead.
I'm in the camp of the old guys, where I just think that, like, personally, I think that, like, as far as states go, I think that, like, historically communism, I know it's such a popular vote to be on, but I think that historically communism is like the worst thing that's happened to the human freaking
well
race.
I'm not a communist or a socialist. I'm simply saying that without
I that it could work if it wasn't for Marxism and the anchor to that ideology.
If it wasn't for
well, that's the problem with a lot of these left anarchist thinkers, is that they are Marxists. They adopt Marxist thinking into their ideology, so they can't just let people be in their society. They have to establish a monopoly on arbitration and force people into submitting to their authority.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate. A lot of people don't really think about. Like I've always said. Well, actually, yeah, I have always said to a certain degree. Whenever I hear people telling me, well, you know, well, what about the poor? What about my beliefs? What about my beliefs and all this stuff? The communists, and I tell them, you can start a hippie commune any fucking time you want. And they go, oh, well, you just expect me to go out into the woods and starve to death and fend for myself and all this. And I'm like, yeah, you want to force me to be part of your hippie commune? That's not how it works. You can, in fact, there are actual like even today, even in America, there are communists or communist areas or societies existing within America. Even it's just they're voluntary and they still exist today, and they've been around since I want to say it was like early 1800s,
and you can leave whenever you want.
Oh yeah, that's the key. They're voluntary, and while they're not exactly building skyscrapers, they're alive. And so when you take away the coercive bit of it, it's somewhat better, somewhat more stable. I still wouldn't live in a commune.
Oh no, there's too many economic problems with it for it to be a stable system. It's just a competing economic model.
Oh yeah.
Even if Marxism wasn't a thing and communism was just the competing economic idea, I would still be a laissez-faire economist, because communism just has too many inherent problems, like the idea that value has an inherent characteristic in a commodity.
Oh yeah, like always, one of the main differences you'll find between libertarians and conservatives is a conservative will say something like, "If communism worked, I'd be all for it." But a libertarian will tell you, even if it did, it involves coercion, and that's not for me. Like regardless, so that's ultimately.
And then of course there's the economic calculation problem, which will ensure that it can never work. But
oh yeah, didn't I think it was in Soviet Russia they couldn't figure out what commodities were worth, so they actually had to buy American catalogs and use those as a way to tell what things should cost.
and it still collapsed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But no, that's even worse when you take into account the fact that the Russian government since 1933 knew about Ludwig von Mises. They had Ludwig von Mises documents hidden in a locker, I think, somewhere in like the Stalingrad after the Soviet Union fell in 1994. And they'd basically censored these documents from the public, so they knew full well that their system didn't work for over 50 years, and yet they kept doing it.
Yeah.
It's honestly kind of sad when I see people over and over again falling into this trope, falling into communism, and it's like every society, or not every society, excuse me, a shit ton of societies have tried one form of communism at some like there is just so many examples we can point to.
No,
not a single one has really, like, I mean, like, you know, statist, or I mean, you know, the kind of the traditional communism in the sense, like Venezuela.
That's another great thing about the agorist decentralization, is that after that happens, such a state can't exist.
Which I find fucking beautiful. I honestly, I really like that. Like, of course, I'm not going to commit to it quite yet until I learn more. But I really like what I've heard with agorism, mainly because it's basically we can't fuck it up. Like, there, like, only thing I think we could honestly do, based off of what I've heard, to fuck it up is to have some kind of, well, honestly, even revolution really wouldn't fuck it up that hard.
No, even if you had a revolution and the revolutionaries tried to stop people, that wouldn't do anything because they don't know who's trading and how they're trading.
Yeah. So there really is like if we fuck this up, it'll just be kind of one of those you had one job moments. Like,
no, if we fuck it up, I don't even think it's possible to do that. So if we find a way to fuck it up, it would be like you fucked it up even though it was literally impossible for you to fuck it up.
I think, you know what? I think Bernie Sanders could fuck it up in that case if it's literally possible to fuck up. No kidding. But
Bernie Sanders probably doesn't even know he probably doesn't even know about Bitcoin, honestly.
I even think he knows what an internet is. He probably says it like that too. It's like he's like, well, in the
I can just picture that now.
Well, no, like at the Zuckerberg trial or whatever, I swear to God, like that was probably, like, that was how the entire thing went down. It was basically a bunch of old ass senators just going up. So, Mr. Zuckerberg, what is an internet?
That wasn't even the funniest part about that whole thing. It was his little booster seat he was sitting in.
Oh yeah, I fucking love that.
there was like, yeah, it was kind of funny because there were two camps. There were like the fuckers who had literally no idea about anything, and there were the ones who had like genuine concerns, but like the topic was just shifted so quickly that you couldn't, like, that it wasn't talked about.
Oh yeah, it's funny to me when I see that shit. Like, it's just like I hate it when, like, people are like, oh yeah, we can, like, the state knows what's best for us, the state, and I'm like, have you seen Congress? Like, they don't even know what century they're in. Like, they're all old as fuck. Like, you look at them, like when Bernie Sanders is legitimately considering trying to be president, and the dude is almost 84 fucking years old.
Half of them are senile, like legitimate senile. I'm pretty sure two of them at least two of them at the Zuckerberg hearing were senile.
Oh my God. Like, and that's the saddest part. Like I remember my poli-sci teacher, the same one that told me abolishing the welfare state is an extremist idea. She told me, like, she was showing me like the different, like, the diversity charts or whatever for Congress. Like, what's the problem here? Like, trying to point out that the women were the minority in it. Whatever. What's the problem here? I raise my hand and I go, because we have way too many old fucks in Congress who don't know a new idea when they see one. Like, that could be contributing. It could be that half of them have lost eyesight and a grasp on reality. I see a lot of problems in Congress. The fact that women are the minority is not one of them.
Yeah, it's a trip. Like,
I don't understand how they get that idea. Just get a diversity quota of women, and then everything will be magically fixed. Even though most of the problems, we can explain what most of the problems are with government, and it has nothing to do even remotely with the identities of the people.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing about why the left is racist and sexist, is that they think that all the problems come from race and gender, which is completely bullshit. Like, the other day I had someone, like my manager at work, you know, he was telling, like, oh, it's stupid that you're libertarian because you're a white male and you grew up middle class. And I had to explain to him that, you know, I grew up in the ghetto and all this stuff. And he's like, well, the only reason that your family rode roads.
All right. Tarek just took off.
Rip.
Thank you. So I think this is pretty much when we gotta sign off. So I want to thank Esoteric. If you're watching this post or watching it right now, thank you, Esoteric. Thank you, Atomic Ancap. I want to thank Chase as well. I want to thank Ichabod Orange. I want to thank Mike Sense. Just everyone that has come watch the stream or on the stream these past two. This has been wonderful. I love it. I just want to say in closing, I've reached, I think Ichabod said 41 subs. I think that may call soon for some sort of 50 sub special. I don't know what it will be yet. I'm thinking maybe a Q&A, but I don't think I'm big enough for a Q&A. If you think to do a Q&A, leave questions in the comments for me, or I may even just do a live stream and just try and get as many people with as many questions as possible. Another live stream for a 50 sub special might be fun to do. I don't know if 50 subs is enough to really a really big enough milestone to have some kind of special, but
it's enough, man. It's enough. Yeah, it's a good job, man.
It's a big milestone for me, and I'm really excited. When I started this channel, man, I didn't think it would go this far. I thought honestly, I was tired of it and give up after, because I was stuck at 22 for like the longest fucking time, and then I do this Logan's episode, and now I'm up to fucking 30, and then like a few days later, I'm up to like 39, and which was today, and I'm like, holy fuck, I'm at 39. I wonder who's going to be the lucky 40th, like a joke on Twitter, and then I literally get 40. Sweet.
Yeah,
no, oh god, like that's awesome. But it was it, and then I'm at 41 now, and that is so fucking amazing to me. I'm so grateful that could happen, and I'm so excited to see where the future goes from here. But anyway, that's enough of my ramblings. Thank you all so goddamn much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment below. I love all you guys. Thank you for making my life that much more wonderful, and for making this channel that much more wonderful. And thank you to all of those who helped me along the way. I just realized I backed up way the fuck away from this to say that, but I am just so happy that this has turned out the way it has, and I think this is honestly the epitome of the happiness. So thank you all for watching, and until next time. This has been Americap, your friendly neighborhood American capitalist. Goodbye.